This is V2V Podcast, episode 21. Hello, and you're tuned in to the V2V Podcast.
Welcome to the V2V Podcast, episode 21. Now is not a time. Here is not a place. And with me tonight is my friend and contributor to the show, Sass. Again, we spoke about Aesop Rock and LP a few weeks ago to medium success. I think that went pretty well, and welcome back.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that was fun. We got a correction from one of the listeners who apparently took notes as he was listening to the Aesop and LP podcast, and I posted it up in the comments. Some corrections he had about production and some lyrical things. Cool, but yeah, it was cool. I thanked him for it and put it out there because we always want. We want to come correct. If we say something that's wrong, we want people who care about what we're talking about to show some light.
Constructive criticism is always welcome. You know?
Oh, and it was very constructive. I would, I'd suggest fans of our conversation now to go back and check that one out too, because it kind of deals with some of the stuff we're going to be talking about now, on a, I guess, more deeper level, or kind of under the surface of some of the concepts that certainly Aesop Rock speaks about, and that artistic thing that happens that you were talking about, high pattern recognition, things of that nature.
Yeah. All right.
The power of the subconscious.
Oh man, that is something else, man. That I mean, I think that is one of the, if not the most powerful thing that you can tap into, if you can get in tune with it and contact it, and a lot of people don't even realize that the psyche goes so deep,
Right. I was going to ask you about that. Do you think most people are even aware of that?
Yeah. They're always on the surface, the subconscious level. I mean, on the conscious level, and they're totally unaware of what's going on elsewhere in their brain. And I think that it can help. Like it could basically manifest things and create your reality. It's a very strong force to tap into.
Sure, I've experienced that personally, especially when I was all the time, but most obviously for whatever reason when I was living out in Venice, I could literally count on it if I verbalized something that I wanted to happen, or I would say something that I didn't want to happen, inevitably, quickly.
Yeah. Manifest.
Yeah. I had to be really careful about what I spoke about, because it was very, very strange. I talk about good stuff and it would happen, it's like the universe doesn't understand what a don't is. Like, it only understands affirmative action. It doesn't recognize you'd have to tell the universe, so to speak, to walk, but don't say don't run, because things are going to start running. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a kid in the hallway.
Yeah, I've had a lot of weird, uncanny experiences with the subconscious, and I've done things that were totally beyond myself, and especially in writing. Writing, I've written things that I couldn't fully comprehend, and later on down the line, lo and behold, this held a lot of meaning to me that I didn't know when I was writing it, and it's weird. Like the subconscious could go far beyond what we can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that goes to kind of this other idea that both the future can predict the present, and the present can predict the past in some weird way. It's like you write something in the past and you don't understand it, and then when in the future now, you look at it again and suddenly it all makes sense, but it makes sense back in the time that you wrote it when you didn't even realize what it meant, but you can like trace it back to exactly what was going on and why you wrote that, but only now you understand why.
Exactly.
But you had a notion to write it then without any clear understanding of what it meant.
Why? Yeah. Why was I doing this? And I didn't know. And that goes for other actions too. I've done things that are beyond myself, and later on, I just found out, like why I did it after the fact, in retrospect. And that has to do with subconscious intent. I guess I had subconscious intentions that I was unaware of at the time, consciously.
Yeah. Now that's like, I mean, it's hard to find tangible evidence for this kind of thing because it's of the mind, but
it's very subjective.
But on the quantum level, with like quantum entanglement, that's very real. Like you can mess with an electron that's like a kilometer away from another one, and the far away electron,
the spin, yeah,
right.
And I have,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I've been working on a few theories actually, and that is the basis of one of my theories. And well, one of them is called synchronicity merges, and that's when two people are around each other so much that they somehow, like over time, they begin to look and sound like each other. And I believe that
we see that.
I believe
just out in the world, like.
And it happened to me.
Look like each other. Yeah.
It happened to me a couple times. I had a best friend and I had a girlfriend, and it was weird. Well, my best friend, I was with him for 2 years, every day, every night. From school to like after school, sleepovers, basketball practice, you name it. We were together all the time. And we eventually started to look alike and sound alike. And it was a very strange thing. And I didn't understand it then, but I mean, I realized that it was happening at the time, but I didn't understand what it was until later on when I grew up. And then I looked back and I realized that I call it a synchronicity merge, where two people start to look alike and sound alike. And I have another theory that I'm working on. I'm about to write a couple papers and publish them. And the other one is called a controlled growth. And the idea, the concept behind that is that we can control how we physically grow just with our mental faculties. And that's something that I've realized by idolizing some artists, like growing up, I listened to a lot of artists and I would mimic them. I would turn around and mimic them and, try to, perform like them or whatnot. And over time, I noticed that I began to sort of look like them and sound like them, and it was weird. And so I believe that there's such a thing called controlled growth, where someone can control the way they start to look just with their mind through projection. And, you know, I've seen it in other artists too, like a little bit in The Weeknd. You could tell that he was a Michael Jackson fan.
Sure.
And
now,
and if
to play devil's advocate a little bit, like, and also to go back to the idea of the subconscious. Now, it seems like there could be some rather non-mysterious reasons for that kind of stuff happening too, because of being together a lot, doing the same things, liking the same things, unconsciously beginning to mold yourself as the other looks and acts, and they're doing the same thing. So there's a point of merging when, if both parties are doing this like rather unconsciously, there will be a point when you sound alike, dress alike, look alike, you know, that kind of thing, use the same words. That's not to discount like some of the more, to use a horrible word, some metaphysical aspects of that idea. But
I mean, it could be totally natural. I don't think it's supernatural. I think it's a totally natural process. And the fact that it is very subjective by nature is why it's probably not even a topic in science.
Well, because some people will do that consciously too, like on purpose. Like, I idolize that person. I'm going to craft my persona.
All the Michael Jackson things?
To be like that.
All the Michael Jackson fans?
It's really obvious. Right. Sometimes it becomes really obvious that a person is doing that. Say, like an artist, like, and you spot them out like, oh, that guy's just trying to be like that other guy. And then they lose credibility for it.
Oh, yeah, because they're not being original, right? Yeah, if you're going to be an artist, the whole point is to be original and to be yourself. And when you see that in an artist, that they're biting another artist, or whether they idolize them or whatever, it kind of, it's a turnoff in a way, because then you're realizing this guy's just a copycat in a way.
Unless you're honest about it and like really wear your influences on your sleeve, like, and are really upfront about it and say, yes,
well,
I do.
even then, that means you're not that creative. You're not creative enough to bring your own character and your own method and technique. I mean, that's still down no matter how you look at it, because it means that the person isn't, as good. They're, know.
Yeah.
And no one.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, no one's going to ever be better than the original. I mean, like, they can try to be, I mean, you know what I mean? But
but what's original?
I mean, I'm talking about, like, artists copying other artists' methods and deliveries and, sounds and.
Yeah, but it's a requirement of art to do that. Like, you have to have a basis to launch from. You have to. Like, there's no artist in a vacuum, who. Well,
that's true. I hear what you're saying, but when it's a little too obvious, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of a negative thing because it feels like the guy doesn't have creativity or whatnot.
Right. I mean, there are artists who are more original than others, for sure. Like. Absolutely. But like someone like Aesop Rock, it's not widely known, but he was greatly influenced by a Bay Area rapper by the name of AC Alone. And even took some of his cadences and esoteric subject matter really to heart, but made it completely his own. Yeah, you should check that out.
What was his name?
Like, AC Alone.
Oh, okay. I had no idea.
Alone.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. But I knew that he listened to Big Daddy Kane. I've heard him mention Big Daddy Kane in some of his records, but I haven't. I didn't really know his influences.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I accidentally found it, and the way I accidentally found it, this influence that he has never mentioned, is what's the song? Where there's a sample of someone saying electric charge coming from the mainframe.
Oh yeah, that's I know what album that's from. That's from Labor Days.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm from where the beat stretch for mad blocks.
Blocks, yeah.
That's those are two lines directly from this other rapper, and then I went back and listened to that album, and some of the subject matter, and not the words themselves, but there's a whole stylistic thing that you can draw a direct connection to. It's really fascinating. Yeah, because this guy AC Alone was very eclectic, eccentric, not well known, probably because of that. Like, he was in the group like with guys like E40 and Too Short, Spice One, those guys who were much more blunt and direct in their messaging regarding where they were from, what they were doing. This other guy, he was much more like all-encompassing regarding his subject matter, and would go places that most people wouldn't. And then later he like came to LA and was part of the Lamert Park like good cafe scene.
Oh, okay.
With Kanye and all the like, it gets very deep, but like, so you can track all this stuff, and somehow, like, without mentioning it, Aesop drew a lot of hidden influence that he doesn't really like wear from that scene. It's kind of cool. Original.
Yeah.
Like that's the way to do it, to not to borrow without being too obvious, or to take inspiration from people without sounding like them, or
without making it very apparent. Yeah.
Now I think that was less unconscious and more calculated, and like an artistic and stylistic decision that he made to pull from different people. Because I mean, I've never really heard like him mention like his like direct influences. I don't know if I've ever heard an interview or read an interview about where he got his early inspiration from, other than like you mentioned, like Big Daddy Kane.
Yeah.
Which there isn't really I mean, you play one, you play the other. I can't really determine the connection, other than maybe the multi-syllabic thing.
Well, they come from the same area, so I think that's the connection right there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and Big Daddy Kane was the man. You couldn't deny it.
And he's from New York, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're both. I guess from the same area. I'm not totally clear. I don't want to say something that I am unaware of, but I would imagine that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's where hip-hop originated, the East Coast. And,
sure.
What was it? I wanted to talk about intuition and dreams.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue, because rap lyrics are pretty intuitive and dreamy in a lot of cases. Like, they just kind of come From where? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, intuition is a sense that's something else, and that's connected with the subconscious as well. And I've had a lot of strange experiences with that as well. And I've received information that I shouldn't know. I mean, that sounds crazy. That sounds batshit crazy. But I know it sounds crazy, but it's something that I've had time and time again. And also, you know how the stomach is more well developed than the brain, the actual brain, because we're deuterostomes. In biology, there's protostomes and deuterostomes are animals where the anus grows first in the womb, and protostomes is an animal where the face or the head grows first. And because of that, yeah, our stomachs are more. I think they have more nerve endings, and they're more well developed, and that's why our stomach. The gut microbiome,
Right.
the bacteria in your stomach, and how it hijacks your brain to tell you what to eat.
Of course. Right.
Yeah, and then you got a gut instinct. You got a gut instinct where something is wrong for sure. Like it just
right, and you can actually physically feel it there.
Feel it. Yeah. So the stomach is very aware, and I would say it's even more well developed than our actual brain, in a sense. Through evolution, of course.
Right. Here's a weird side note. So.
And I believe that's connected with intuition too, the gut instinct.
So think about this: how developed a stomach is per se. Now I'm going to talk briefly about a different animal, but scavengers, birds like condors, vultures, right?
Yeah.
They can eat literally anything. And the reason why they can eat anything, including metal, and anything that, bones, like all of the material of a dead animal, like debris, dirt, rocks, because their stomach acid is 300 times as strong as the stomach acid in a human being.
Wow.
Right? So then the question becomes, even in our own case, well, why doesn't the stomach digest itself?
Oh yeah, because the stomach lining. I know that it could burn through metal if you throw. I heard if you throw up in a sink and you leave it, it could eat through the metal.
Right. So imagine that, that's the power of the human being, digestive juices.
Imagine that on you. Imagine that on you.
No, thank you. But but these birds are literally, and this is not something I'm just conjuring up, are 300 times more powerful.
That is nuts,
and
man.
I just you think talk about a well-developed stomach. I mean, in a bird's brain, it's very tiny. It's pea-sized. Yet the stomach rules, in so many ways. Dinosaurs that have had millions and millions of years to evolve, as birds, and birds are in fact the direct descendants
of dinosaurs. Yeah.
And so they've had a long time to evolutionarily develop, much longer than humans have. So I guess it's not surprising that these capabilities come to light over time. The ability to literally eat anything and be able to survive and thrive over millennia. It's fascinating. So I see your point about the stomach being like the quote unquote most evolved or developed organ in our body. Sure. It guides everything that we do.
Yeah, exactly. It lets you know how you feel, and if you eat something you don't like, it lets you know that it's not good. And recently they found a link between schizophrenia and mental illness, a direct link between food consumption and mental illness. And they say that if you eat a lot of processed foods and junk foods, that you're likely to go crazy directly from that.
Right. Huh. Now, is that just because of like lack of real nutrition? Well,
it could be. I think it has a lot of adverse effects that we're unaware of. We don't know the long-term effect of all these processed foods, so that's why like a raw diet is always best. If you could just eat raw vegetables and stuff.
Right, because processed foods are really new to us as humans. Like, very,
definitely.
Like
we don't know the long-term effects.
On the scene. Yeah, I mean, over what, the last 100 years? Because everything was essentially raw up until the modern age when kind of like when plastic came around.
Exactly. I was about to mention that right now. I was going to say, yeah, they do that to increase the shelf life of a product, and plastic has a lot of adverse effects too, from what I hear. Just even wearing, like, I've heard if you wear plastic slippers, the soles of your feet can absorb chemicals and actually change your body and make you sick in a way. And it's affecting nature in a way that's beyond our understanding. Like, it's really harming the wildlife and whoever's in constant contact with it.
Sure. But the thing is, the interesting thing about plastic is in some ways it's certainly less expensive than using paper products, and in other ways it's also less damaging to the environment, which is kind of crazy, but the implications may be far greater than chopping down a tree, because you're compounding these chemicals into making new substances that we don't know the long-term or even short and medium-term effects of.
And I think it's about time, because it's about time that we actually confront our society about the use of it. I mean, the bottling industry and people who produce plastic products, because I mean, it's not a natural thing, and from my understanding, I'm a science enthusiast, and from my understanding, that it's not good for anyone or anything.
Yeah, right. So, but you have these two warring lobbies, though. You have like the plastic industry, got a lot of money and resources and a very loud voice, and then you have the paper products industry, which is very similar.
But it's better.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's yet to be determined, but I think the problem is that because you have these two warring factions, which are both very powerful, it becomes increasingly difficult to make anything change, because there's like
stuck in our ways for profit.
You're stuck in the middle of these two things, like.
Yeah.
And then you have people dreaming of everything made out of hemp, which is also in a lot of ways it's a pipe dream. To use a bad analogy, but it really kind of is, because that industry has to grow up so big to be able to compete with these other two things,
but it would be so much better. It would be so much better.
But the powers that be, they're either going to co-opt it or buy it out, and that might be a good thing. But
I think if I guess public educators come out and start holding functions where people unite and, you know, like they raise awareness in the public about it, I think that we may stand a chance if we boycott it in a way. I mean,
that seems to be the best way to do things. Like, to really make a mark is to not participate. But then, of course, that leads to other issues too, where, you know, you end up finding yourself halfway out of society because you're not conforming to the standard that is seemingly required, you know, by it's weird, and it's not by any, you know, one person. No one's like saying you need, like, it's the system as a whole. If you try to opt out, it will shun you in so many ways, like,
and that's why unity unity and raising awareness would be a key thing in it. If a bunch of people did it, you know, and it wasn't just one person doing it, that one person wouldn't be isolated. It would be a movement in a way, and that's probably what we need.
That's kind of what we're doing in a little small way here, where, you know, a few hundred people will hear this, and as we go on, more people will, you know, hear us talking about this stuff. Right now we're fairly small, but we're picking up, you know, listeners every day. And getting, you know, more views. People are spending more time listening to the show, and so it's good. It makes you want to keep doing it because this is the kind of stuff that I don't hear. Like, I think a lot of people don't hear it. Like, I listen to a lot of information, and generally I don't hear conversations that are, you know, like, go along these lines.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if it's a cultural shift that
the media. I'm sure the media is already aware of this, and it's something they would never want to cover because they would lose money. The establishment, you know, the powers that be, and that's why it's not really talked about abroad. And like, but you know, we did make one little small step of progress by banning straws in California, but I think we have to go way further than that. I think we need to, you know, really start, you know, caring about nature, and, you know, like Tesla using zero emission vehicles and not wasting water, being aware of how we're using our water and resources and using the right resources. And I believe that's the way to live, and to lessen cow farming, because that's really the number one. That's the number one contributor to global warming. It's from what I understand, it's more than 50% of global warming is caused by that, and you know, all the other pollution that we make doesn't even come close to that. You know.
Sure, there are more cows in this country than there are people.
That's crazy.
Like, I mean, and not even to mention how many chickens there are. There are, you know, the mess.
Having the greenhouse.
A billion cows, like, roaming these giant agribusiness farms, you know, that are farting up a storm and ruining everything. It's true. But like, people want
the methane. The methane. That's true. The methane is causing a greenhouse effect, and I believe that, like, you know, the reason why people are so careless is because they don't really. They're not too aware, you know. They think that maybe cows are dumb animals. When cows cry, when they get, you know, they're emotional animals. They're intelligent beings, and I don't think people are aware, you know. And if people were educated, especially keen on science, then I believe that they would be more conscious towards that, and they wouldn't want to eat meat to get protein, because the essential amino acids that your body needs, I mean, you don't have to eat meat to receive it. I mean, there's so many other sources and better sources for you.
Right. What do you think of the lab-grown meat phenomenon that's about to hit?
That's hip. That's hip. You know, I'm for it. I'm for it. You know, whatever it takes to lessen the cow farming and lessen our footprint on this planet,
Sure. You'll be able to, and what's more is any weird exotic tastes you might have, you'll be able to kind of order it up, so to speak. Like if you want to eat rattlesnake every night, yes, you can. And no rattlesnakes have to die in the making. No rattlesnakes have to die in the making of your dinner. Like it's kind of nuts, and it's definitely on the way. I think the idea is that like cultivated beef and chicken is going to hit supermarkets in a couple of years. So it's definitely coming. Now, if we could all eat lab-grown meat and drive Teslas, maybe the world would be a better place.
Oh yeah, it would. It definitely would, because we wouldn't, we'd slow down global warming and bring it to a halt, hopefully, over a period of 50 years, because we don't even have, from what I understand, we don't even have a gas supply for more than 50 years. The pessimists were arguing like 15 years, and the optimists were arguing 13 years for the amount of gas we have left. And we're going to have to change eventually. Why not do it now instead of, going through, taking that risk,
Isn't it interesting that we never hear about that anymore? Or at least I know. Not in years.
I used to read.
Like, it used to be like this, like all the time, like, oh no, oil, like, oh, we're running out. We're running out.
I used to read news articles on it all the time.
All the time. And not anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're just focused on now everyone seems to be just focused on, the orange guy in the White House.
Yeah.
Which I think is a purposeful distraction, to tell you the truth.
Oh yeah. They definitely, they got a good distraction right there, because he's a celebrity.
Oh my God, it's a perfect
people pay
distraction.
attention to him, like, And,
right?
and the funny thing is, so many people believe every word he says. They're not skeptic whatsoever, and that's pretty sad, because the guy doesn't. I mean, the only criticism he gets is from the left, and and the left are kind of like extremists themselves, and no one even takes them seriously. You know what I mean? So,
well, when you hear him talk about like the deep state or whatever, and how everyone's out to get him, that is the distraction, because he's not really talking about anyone that anyone can see or that anyone knows the names of. There are the people behind the throne, so to speak, who have essentially installed him there as a distraction so they can continue running the world. And he's like the perfect foil, like, because they've got all this now, like, because normally, like, the president on the public stage does things that a president does, and they make decisions and do things and enact legislation or sign legislation. None of that is happening. Like, it's not, that doesn't go on now. So his handlers have all the time in the world to do exactly what they want to do without any scrutiny whatsoever, because everyone's focused on him. It's quite amazing.
He's getting a lot of support too. That's the thing. Everybody's for him without even,
everyone on top. Yeah. Go ahead.
And the people that are for him, I mean, I don't mean to be offensive or anything, but they're not the brightest bunch of people,
Sure. And the people that are against him are buying into the whole game too. Like, it's two sides of the same coin. Yeah. That's what's wanted, that there be these factions formed so that they can just slide right through the middle and do all the things that they need to do without anybody noticing. Like I was saying, in a normal quote unquote, like, government administration, there's much more focus on mechanics of the world, like the oil thing, like
tangible things,
like big issues, like the things that affect many people. those are the headlines, like like the war, or like all of that stuff. Those are the things that people are paying attention to. Not anymore, because they created a perfect diversion with this guy. They're like, hey, reality TV, reality president.
Yeah, and it's crazy when the country's in conflict, when the U.S. is in heavy conflict. That it seems like that's when what I call the social engineers. That's when they're working on people the most through the media. But as they've laid off as of late, and they haven't been doing it, haven't had to do anything, like distractions or deceit. They haven't had
because
to do
the
that.
media has been exactly. The media has been co-opted too. They're also being used as this tool of distraction, so that no one really knows what's going on anymore. Ask anybody about anything that's going on in the world that is of any consequence, and the answer will probably be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like how do you even find out? Because we were talking about this idea about truth. Like, what is truth? And that the definition of that word has been so blurred that it's really difficult to even assign a clear definition to what's real anymore. And again, that's part of the plan. It must be, because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about what the nature of truth is. Because it seems like it used to be pretty clear cut. Even if we were being lied to, we kind of had a good idea that we were being lied to. But it seems more and more that those lines are becoming so blurry that you've got people who would just say, "Oh well, if he said it, or if I believe it, then it must be true."
True, yeah.
And then you got somebody else going, "No, because you said it and you believe it, it must be false." Like there's no definitive thing you can point to and say that's real. And that's
it seems
crazy.
like the social engineers are focusing on the youth through the music industry, and I've noticed a great deal of in the new age hip hop or the rap, a feminization of black males.
Oh yeah. What's that about?
I know, and that's not really the nature of the culture, and it's being injected into it. All of the new age rappers that are popular right now, they're in some way, I mean, excuse my language, like really fruity.
Very, yeah. Even the music is kind of soft and fruity these days. To use a weird term, like it's very
homosexual
and soft and slapping.
Yeah, and there's nothing, and there's no, I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay, but I mean they're ruining the culture in a way.
Well, there's only all the music that you're talking about, generally speaking, is there's only a very few people who can greenlight any of this stuff. Like, I think the myth of the internet sensation has been widely overblown. Like, and people talk about the death of the music industry, and they're absolutely wrong. Like 100% absolutely not correct. Like streaming services like Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, they run the show in conjunction with Warner Brothers and the other major label record companies. Absolutely. And there's maybe 10 people on the planet that really have the power to say, yes, this is going out there. We're going to put, $1 billion behind it to make sure that everyone hears it, and everyone's going to hear it. Like, it's guaranteed. So and then of course that influences, like kind of like what we were saying in the beginning, that influences all these other people who want to be artists and who naturally are going to try to emulate the music that they hear because that's what they're exposed to. So then you get, then all of a sudden you get everything that's coming out is super fruity, and like it's like a bubble gum, you know, and it's a weird phenomenon because you still have those elements of like thuggishness and but coupled with this very strange feminine softness.
Yeah,
that
the new homo.
It's very odd.
Yeah,
it really is. It's like, and I don't think I'm enough of a music head and appreciator of music to not think that it's me being older and saying, "Oh, those darn kids today." Because
no, it's definitely not that.
Because the people that are making this music and are releasing this music are my age or just a little bit younger. Like they're not, these aren't like.
I think they have
coming up. You know what I mean?
I think they have an agenda, and what I believe that they're trying to do through this is convince the youth to be homosexual so that they could have a little bit of more power over population control. I think they have there's a reason for it. I don't think it happens for no reason. And, because there's a lot of big money backing these guys up, and they got big record labels behind them, and they're pretty much being told what to do. They're like, hey, if you wanna be a success, if you wanna be rich, well, you gotta do this, and you gotta deliver,
right.
And
so it's just like is this like cultivating and farming oppression?
And they're all falling in line. I've noticed that they're all falling in line and doing it. They're all doing it because the record labels are telling them you have to do this, and I believe there's a reason for it. And even shoot, I feel like
well, you know what I mean? Is this like the people in charge like purposefully cultivating a group of people that they can then turn around and oppress?
Yeah.
Right? Like, no, it's good. And then a couple of years from now, no, it's no good anymore. Like, you're all bad. Like,
yeah.
Whoa. Like, I can really see that as being somewhat of an agenda to, it's a great way of controlling somebody to, it's like force feeding. And then suddenly, like, no more food. Like, and then at that point, also going back to the stomach thing, you have them under your complete and utter control. Like,
yeah,
here's all this. Yeah, eat it up. Like, eat up all this crazy music that we're telling you to like, and all your friends like.
And I believe it's having an ill effect on the youth. It really is, because they're not growing up to quality music like you and I did. They're growing up to pure, hyper superficialist garbage,
Right.
And it has no substance to it. It's not about anything real. It's just about money, bitches, drugs, and that's as far, and maybe killing. And that's about as far as it goes. And that's
I remember a few years ago, when I was first introduced to like trap music.
Yeah.
My buddy's like, at the time he goes, yeah, I just like wallpaper. Like, you don't really listen to the lyrics. Like, there's not much there, but like, it's nice to have in the background. And now it's in the foreground. All of a sudden, like, that became no longer just wallpaper, but the predominant sound that is infiltrating everything. And why? It's a weird phenomenon that I think we should further explore for sure.
Yeah. And I also wanted to touch on dreams and dream manifestations, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And symbolism. Symbolism is pretty big in our culture. Have you ever studied Carl Jung?
Sure, and I think he's being badly abused these days. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he uncovered the thing about the collective unconscious,
Right.
and the symbolism behind everything. And archetypes are big. Yeah, I mean, symbolism is huge in our culture, and I originally wanted to write a book about universal dreams, because there are a lot of dreams that all of us have, you know, and I believe they hold great meaning, and that's why we all have them. And I've had a lot of my dreams come true in a symbolic way, you know. In retrospect, I sit there and look back, and I pick it apart, you know, and I see things inside the dream, and I realize that you know, somehow it manifests in my way, and I may just be drawing that connection and assigning it meaning, but I believe it does have a meaning to it. And I don't know if you've ever had the same experience. Have you?
With like dreams manifesting themselves in some sort of
like
real way?
Symbols in your dreams, and then in your day something happens where it was like kind of, you know, uncanny or kind of awkward. You're like, whoa, that's kind of awkward, you know?
Maybe, but
yeah,
I'm the kind of person who generally doesn't hold on to like dream memories.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like,
okay.
I guess that's the real answer. I'm not aware. I'm not like highly aware of it. But
okay.
But my intuition tells me that yes. But I couldn't tell you why or like in detail like how that happened. My experience has mainly been with conscious manifestation, where I think of something and then verbalize it and then watch it happen.
Yeah.
Or
I've had that experience.
Or watch things like it happen. And I don't know if it's because I've just become hyper aware of what I want or don't want, and then watch that occur in the world. Kind of like buying a car that you haven't seen before, and you get in it, and suddenly you see 10 of them on the road. So I don't know. Like it's a good question, but I don't really have a good answer for that. But I believe that is true in some sense, but I couldn't tell you the mechanics of how that works, or if it's just being suddenly more aware of your own thoughts. So you seek out that in the world too. I don't know.
You have to be very, very conscious. Yeah, the dreams have a lot to do with the subconscious, and I used to be I am a vivid dreamer. I remember a lot of my dreams, and I have lucid dreams quite a bit. There are techniques to induce it, and I used to dream journal. I used to write about my dreams and lucid dream. Yeah, and that is it's a whole different world. I mean, it's weird. It feels in a sense kind of on a deep level a lot more real than real life.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
that's fascinating. I never had the I guess I've thought about that, and I've done some lucid dreaming exercises, but I never had the I don't know what it was, but I never had the incentive or the patience to actually dream journal. It sounds like a great exercise, like that.
Yeah.
That I know a lot of creative people are involved in, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
and I learned the techniques from a Buddhist. A Buddhist actually taught me how to lucid dream. And there are a few different methods of inducing that, and you can do that, and it's like a muscle, you know, you gotta practice it to get really good at it. A lot of people don't get it on the first try. They have to keep trying and trying and trying. and trying until they finally do get it. But, you know, it came to me quite naturally for some reason. And, you know, the symbolism, and also, you know, if you have high pattern recognition, you know, you're artistic, you understand metaphors really well. You know, you look around in society, culture, and you take in a lot of information, and you can notice a lot of patterns, you know, and it's a trip. I remember at one point I thought I was going crazy because of all the knowledge I was taking in and all of the things that I was seeing in society, in history, in culture, and in all, you know, in life. And I saw a lot of patterns, and I literally felt like I was losing my mind, you know. And that wasn't really the case. I don't know what it was, but I don't know. That was a weird experience for me. It definitely did change me, and it you know, changed my outlook and everything on life. And I'm sure some people out there have had the same experience, and that right now they could relate to what I'm saying, like, deeply.
Sure. Absolutely. I wanted to do one more thing, and hope maybe this will manifest some. I know it's a bit early for, but I wanted to read some very short, scary stories.
Awesome.
That I think I showed those to you earlier.
Oh yeah.
And I'll probably put this in a separate segment. But I found these like several years ago, and a few of them like just were like genuinely like spooky and weird. And so I thought it would be fun to read some, and then maybe perhaps even put some like spooky effects around it, or make it like echoey, or put some funny music in there to to then re-release like closer to Halloween. So to get it done now, just to do it, I think would be fun. And you can comment, like, if you choose to, kind of in between, because they're just very brief, like 2-sentence like stories, so to speak. So I'll just start here. I began tucking him into bed, and he tells me, "Daddy, check for monsters under my bed." I look underneath for his amusement and see him, another him, under the bed, staring back at me, quivering and whispering, "Daddy, there's somebody on my bed." You hear your girlfriend calling you in the kitchen. As you are headed down the stairs, you hear a whisper from the closet saying, "Don't go down there, honey. I hear it too." I don't think I'm supposed to laugh during these, but like they're kind of amusing to me now. I had a dream that a man was watching me sleep from outside my bedroom window. When I woke up, I found footprints inside, next to my bed. My TV keeps turning on by itself. It's annoying, but what's more worrisome is how it only shows footage of me standing in my living room. I'm all alone during a storm when the power goes out. Lightning strikes, and there is a man standing in my hallway with a knife. I see a face staring at me from my window. I live on the 3rd floor. My grandmother told me it was a gift to see the angel of death in front of people's houses, to know he would be collecting someone there soon. I thought it was a gift too, until the day I began to see it in front of every house. She tried to check her makeup in the mirror, but her reflection was missing. There was a knock on my door. Something inside me told me not to open the closet. The covers are always a safe place in my bed. Everyone's out and I'm home alone. I slip between the covers, trying not to think bad thoughts. In complete darkness, I whisper to myself, "Is it stupid that I'm afraid?" "Don't worry, friend. They can't get us in here," it whispers back. A girl heard her mom yell her name from downstairs, so she got up and started to head down. As she got to the stairs, her mom pulled her into her room and said, "I heard that too." There you go. Scary stories. Some of those are pretty chilling. Like, I like the first one and the last one the best, about people calling from other rooms, and then you're going there, and then a voice like of the person that just called you is behind you saying, "Don't go down there." Like, what? All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you.
Right.
So this is has been another episode, episode 21, in fact, of the V2V podcast with my special guest, Sass. We certainly covered a lot of topics. Give us a like if you like it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you stay up on all our new content that we produce daily. And again, thanks for listening. Have a good night.
Sam, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.